Iranians to build a nuclear weapon. They were following the terms of that deal perfectly. That's not based on inspectors just from the United States. You're talking about inspectors, in a group of international inspectors. You have European countries, you have Russia, you have all these countries joining in on this JCPOA. Diplomacy is the only way. War or threats of war is only going to persuade, Iranians to maybe speed up toward a nuclear weapon so they don't have to worry about other countries coming in and messing with them. And I don't want that to happen. I don't want them to have nuclear weapons. But it is rich that the country that's currently carrying out a genocide in Gaza is the country that has nukes, is not part of the non-proliferation agreement, and has the audacity of bullying other countries and determining whether other countries should be allowed to have the same weapons they have. Something to think about. We gotta take a break. We'll be right back.
Let's take a break.
With his girlfriend and children. This all stems from an incident during a protest against ICE.
Here with their rifles, and we heard some screaming up in the front, but we couldn't see because everything was black. But it was pretty shocking.
His family, did nothing wrong. They, like I said, they were involved in a minor traffic accident, and then this is
freeways. She got onto the eastbound 210, exited at Yarnell, and then got right back on the freeway going westbound 210, and now back on the northbound 5. So she's right at the split here with the 14, so she does have a couple of options. We've seen her get in the truck lanes as well, so that adds even more options for her. But I'm going to widen out real quick because she does appear to be slowing down a bit.
It's like a woman shooter suspect in LA.
Going up to a high under par.
Bigger my 83 degrees. And if it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon and all the food isn't ready on the table yet, you got to get it done by 5. Sometimes that's okay. What happens later is the kind of this midterm stress when we fail to modulate the stress that has lasted longer than that moment. And then that moment, if we can't modulate it, we tax ourselves. And that too can take a toll on our bodies. And we get kind of used to that. And people who are stressed tend to not really realize that they are stressed. And they just kind of continue, and that creates that chronic stress that we're talking about. So you and I were talking earlier, the thing that I always wish people to do is be aware. You have to really take a moment to assess how you feel.
Oh, God.
More opportunities for people to create.
Under the form of asking for a sales tax increase.
Talking to somebody that right now.
Come on.
Whether community college or Kent State University or Columbus.
We'll clean your floors. Yeah.
Rescue Center.
Knowing that. So you can get one.
Today, billionaires Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Richard Branson are major players, but others are joining this new space race.
How do you project the trajectory going forward for the next, we'll say to the end of the decade?
I think we're going to see continued growth in commercial space, and that will include not only things like orbital space tourism. Expect to see several commercial space stations. One of the things that I'm most excited about is something that is often called point-to-point transportation through space. That's going to be a huge game changer, I believe, and frankly open up space to a lot more people and have it be a part of our everyday life.
So what can a commercial space flight look like? For the Inspiration 4 team, that 3-day orbital flight took them 360 miles above Earth. Orbital space flights require the craft to reach a high enough velocity to remain in orbit. Suborbital flights, however, don't achieve orbital speeds, are shorter in duration, and require significantly fewer resources. They're likely to become more accessible as space tours. A third type of space tour flies much lower than suborbital flights, but provides similar visuals. The space tourism market will skyrocket in the coming years. An analysis found globally, space tourism was worth nearly $600 million in 2021. but is expected to rise to nearly $13 billion by 2031.
Absolutely. Food.
It was nearly
pump and even a ladder.
We want to break that barrier and show them that they can do whatever they want. If it's firefighting, this is a great chance for them to.
It's not your destiny. You're going to come into a.
also in this video. And
when you accepted it.
favorable.
and
it comes from
happened and why parents were detained.
Capitalistic society is,
like, Dad.
Gotta ask.
Yeah, so the biggest challenge I'm seeing, just being up here, knowing that they're likely going to start to have radio issues, is those communication issues where the...
Still chasing a woman in L.A. like O.J. Simpson.
Find the day laborers. They tend to be undocumented. Round them up, arrest them. We're going to deport them. We want to increase our numbers. Well, now it turns out that it might not just be about Trump wanting to beat Obama's deportation numbers. You know, Obama, the deporter-in-chief, as he was called. And to be fair, Trump is definitely very competitive and wants to beat Obama's numbers. I don't deny that at all. But for Stephen Miller, there's something personal and financial involved as well, and that has to do with his investment in Palantir, which is very, very much involved in our deportation schemes here in the United States. So according to ethics disclosure reports released by the White House, Miller owns between $100,000 and $250,000 worth of stock in Palantir, which of course is Peter Thiel's data and intelligence software company that has several lucrative contracts with immigration and customs enforcement to track data and conduct surveillance on undocumented immigrants and soon American citizens. We've covered that. We'll continue covering that as that story develops. But nonetheless, Miller isn't the only one in the Trump administration with investments or stock in the company, but he does have the largest stake. Miller's investment could pose a severe conflict of interest, obviously, especially since Palantir has had close ties to ICE, by the way, dating as far back as the Obama administration. And I'm not doing this like both sides thing, but we also have to be real about the Democrats, because the Democrats, they're different from the Trump administration.
See, they're still doing exactly what I said that they was going to be doing 6 months ago before Donald Trump became president the second time. They're still pointing the finger. The Democrats are pointing their fingers at the Republicans. The Republicans are pointing a Democrat at the Democrats. And the thing about it is, it's just as much both of them's fault that this has gotten in the shape that it's in. But they always got to play the blame game. That way they can improvise on the truth. That way possibly they can convince somebody that they're the nice guys versus the bad guys. Well, I got news for them. As far as I'm concerned, anybody that steps off into that arena is automatically damaging and damaging their reputation as far as their character, because it speaks volumes about who would ever want to become associated with this type of corrupt system that is now $37 trillion in debt, and now right now they're talking about passing another bill of $5 trillion, which will go from, let's say, 37 to, well, you can do the math. About $42 trillion is what it comes up to me. Anyways, all this malarkey, I'm going to call it malarkey to be nice about it, is only that in which what has been projected to happen. And I'm going to go as far as making a prediction that within just a short span, because people know that Donald Trump don't have but basically 3 more years until there's going to be a heavy political presidential election again over here in America. But I'm going to say within the next 3 years, something major. And whenever I say major, I do mean major, that's going to occur over in the Middle East, that's going to affect every aspect of the Middle East. Now, I can only go by gut feeling that it is getting even more severe as we get further along pertaining to these departments of Homeland Security that has gotten involved in this. But the bottom line is this: they done what they done in overstepping their authority, not necessarily of the authority of the United States War Commission, because in actuality they didn't declare war. War had already been declared on us pertaining to the Iranian government coming from the Khomeinis. They only made a strike. In order to go to war, you do have to take that before Congress to verify that to be approved. But what they've done was violate other agreements that has been made with other countries over in the Middle East, and because of it, you wait and watch. There's going to be hell to pay because of that in which what has been done. Now, me personally, I feel like that we done the proper and right thing by bombing institutions that we know for a fact, even though some people may say, well, no, they didn't have enough rich uranium to build a nuclear bomb. There was other tattletale signs that they did have more than enough to build a enriched nuclear bomb. And if the truth be known, they was just within days of doing so. Within days of actually building a nuclear bomb. I think that all this is Bible prophecy, and I don't think that there's nothing at this point in time that any politician, including Donald J. Trump, can do to stop it. And I think the reason why is because we're heading in a trajectory right now based upon what didn't occur that should have occurred over here in the Western world pertaining to biblical Bible prophecy. And because of it, I'm just standing idly by, just waiting for my turn, because I know that the Bible will fulfill itself, that he or she that abundantly soweth shall also reapeth abundantly. So they can try to pull the wool over the American people's eyes or the world's eyes all they want, but the bottom line is this: payday's coming. Payday's coming, and the fact of the matter is what? Donald J. Trump has went over there to the Middle East making all these shady agreements with all these rich oil people over there, including the Saudis. You get to looking at their high marks that, they devoted, they made a commitment towards $2 trillion or $3 trillion. I think in total, all of it together is something like $5 trillion. What is $5 trillion compared to a zillion trillion dollars? It's not. It's a drop in the bucket, correct? The same way as what Christ said about the little woman that only gave 2 mites, that she gave more than all, including the lawyers, including the judges, including everybody, rich and poor, that she gave more than all. Because why? Because that's all that she had to give, was those 2 little bitty mites. So, theoretically speaking, she was given more than any other person. In the eyes of prosperity, from a monetary standpoint, you would think that $5 trillion is a lot of money, right? $5 trillion, that's big money, man. They're making big commitments. No, what they're doing is finishing the contract off towards selling America down south, pretending to giving the farm away, and allowing for these people to come over here and get that much more of a grip up onto our lives pertaining to the Middle Easterners over there, including the Saudi Arabians, to the degree that basically they will be in control towards being a superpower eventually, as much, if not more, than America and Russia. And I know that sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy. But I'm telling you right now, whenever it comes to nuclear bombs and whenever it comes to holding the world hostage pertaining to having this type of ability, don't never underestimate what the power of wicked, evil money can do whenever it comes to buying and selling and purchasing whatever that you want. You got to keep in mind that those people for the past 30 plus years have been struggling. Why? Because of that in which what happened over here in the Western world of not opening up pertaining to Bible prophecy. And as far as I'm concerned, still to this day, I still don't have. I'm still getting the cold shoulder. I'm still getting ignored. I'm still being treated as a misfit or a person that's out of his mind or don't know what he's talking about. I've never seen so much bogusness going on over in America coming from various authority figures that I have today. And that's locally, as well as state, as well as federally. So, until this thing actually burns and crashes, I don't know what it's going to take to do it, and I don't wish for it to happen, but obviously that's the only thing that's going to basically get people's attention in basically giving this thing an opportunity to turn around, in which you would have thought 9/11 would have done it. You would have thought COVID would have done it. You would have thought other major factors would have done it, regardless whether it be the war over in Ukraine or the war over in the Middle East. But that still ain't done it. That still ain't stopped, drop, and roll pertaining to getting people's attention towards what's actually going on here pertaining to this demonic, evil warfare that basically I was caught up in pertaining to a witch hunt that was happening in my life from 2005 up until about 2014 whenever I come back home. And then whenever I did come back home, that's sure enough whenever all hell busted loose in my life for 3 consecutive solid years. Because at that point in time, I wasn't moving around as a moving target, going from place to place, and they could basically hone in on my whereabouts, and that's exactly what they was doing. Basically, being tormented by about 10 or 12 different families around here that was trying everything in the world to provoke either David or myself, my brother, that's now dead at the age of 51, or cause enough disparity into our lives that either David would run me off or I would voluntarily leave. That's what they wanted, because they've done already burnt their bridges around here. Various people yik-yakking and talking about Juby this, Juby that, basically being an anti-Juby to the degree that today they actually hate me even probably more so. They probably wish even more so that I was dead. But the thing about it is, everything that they have done, regardless whether it be on the upper end pertaining to the federal government or the lower end pertaining to the locals, has backfired on them. And it will continue to backfire on them. And I'm saying right now, something big is fixing to occur, and it will occur within now and the next 3 years before Donald Trump leaves office. And it will be something that even our CIA and our federal international officers won't be able to see coming and won't be able to control. And it's going to go much bigger and worse than 9/11. We're talking about something humongous. Now, if you'll topple that on top of the major sorrows that the Bible talks about pertaining to the forces of nature in regards towards earthquakes, tornadoes, volcanoes, more pandemics, droughts, famines, etc. If you'll compile that all together, you know what that spells to me? Hard times is coming over the horizon. And if you think that you've dealt with crazy stuff, and if you think that you've dealt with hard stuff so far, regardless whether you be in the continent of the United States or you be on the other side of the world somewhere, you ain't seen nothing yet. Coming near a neighborhood near you. You haven't seen nothing yet. And do I wish for this to occur? Absolutely not. I've said this so many times on other videos of mine that I wish that things would have properly been handled in the proper form to the degree that we would have seen not only a revival but a revolution, and out of the revolution see a true temporary utopia or peace fall upon a society, not only here in America but throughout the world. That was the number one goal. That was the first goal. Well, now since that goal is no longer obtainable, 30 some odd years later, it's put everybody in the crosshairs. So you can blame various politicians and various preachers that have sat idly by and let this fester the way that it's festered. Let this basically boil over the way that it's boiled over, and it's just a matter of time before it's coming near a neighborhood near you.
Immigrants to El Salvador, they did it anyway. They're like, oh, too late. They're in midair. Sorry. So just totally ignoring what our judicial branch is ordering the executive branch to do in that case. Now, and if a court order were to try and stop the deportations, both stated that the DOJ would need to consider telling the courts FU and ignore any such court order. Now, Ruveni also stated that he was instructed by the Trump administration to refer to Kilmar Abrego Garcia as a terrorist, but he refused to do so because he was not aware of any evidence indicating that Abrego Garcia was a terrorist. There was nothing to...
And this could very well be what I'm talking about, of something big that could channel into something even bigger, of an uprising here in America that's already started, that we're looking at basically a revolution or another, per se, civil war against the illegal immigrants versus the true sovereign citizens of America. I mean, this thing is way out of focus, friends. And I continue to keep saying that the only way that we're going to get it back in focus is through the Holy Father, through a revival. But yet, no, I don't see no supporters. I don't see no people that's willing to engage in that type of a movement. So it leads me to more and more to believe that, yes, a bloody road is ahead. And it's not because Dennis James Jackson desired it or wanted a bloody road ahead, but it's because this is what they have chosen.
You really need me to repeat it? Did you suggest, as Mr. Ruveni wrote, that DOJ would need to consider telling the courts you and ignore any such court order?
I did not suggest that there would be any need to consider ignoring court orders. At the point of that meeting, there were no court orders to discuss.
Well, did you suggest telling the courts you in any manner?
I don't recall.
To me, it seems like he did. When you say I don't recall, it's a way of avoiding perjuring yourself, but also you're not telling the truth. Like, you don't have to tell the truth. I don't recall. It's like the weaselly tactic that a lot of...
Plead the fifth. In other words, you don't want to say, oh, I plead the fifth, or I remain silent, but you say, I don't recall.
Deportations happen.
It's a way of patronizing the answer.
I get it. I know that if you're here in the country and they're setting you up for deportation, you're not necessarily going to get a trial case. I get that. But you should be able to get a court hearing, an opportunity to defend yourself, because guess what? If you don't have a process of due process, people are going to mistakenly get deported. And that's what happened to Abrego Garcia. And by the way, that has happened literally to U.S. citizens that were mistakenly deported. In fact, Time Magazine published a piece today that It's fascinating, something that we should all know about. So less than 6 months into President Trump's second term, courts have directed his administration to bring back at least 4 people that they've deported. In the latest example, a court of appeals ordered the federal government to facilitate the return of Jordan Salmiran, who was deported to El Salvador in May, just 30 minutes after the same.
Now that sounds awful to me. I know to a lot of people it's like, oh, so what? So what? They made a mistake. They'll bring them back and that'll be the end of it. No, you don't realize something. People's living so close on the edge in America and throughout the world that if they lose as much as 2 to 3 days of employment, it tears the whole household apart pertaining to the bill structure that they was already adapted to meeting and making. So whenever something like that does occur, in which I regret that it has, it's going to be devastating to families' lives. It ain't just going to be devastating in the sense of having to pay for another flight ticket to bringing them back. But it's going to be devastating to those people's lives because they're going to have to basically go through a shock and awe because now the breadwinner of that family is gone and the bill still comes. The light bill still comes. The telephone bill still comes. The insurance bill still comes. So whenever they say something like that 4 people has been transported out of the United States improperly, realize the significance of that.
Is enraging. Because if you as an American are okay with the erosion of rights for undocumented people, that means you're okay with the erosion of your rights. Because it affects you as well.
Well, see, my rights has already been affected. My rights started getting affected in 1989 whenever I first stood out into the eyes of the general public towards certain people in this particular area wanting to silence me whenever I got on WENK News over here in Union City, broadcasted my message on Sunday mornings, and within 4 sessions, within a month, I was given the ultimatum of either quitting my job and seeking employment elsewhere or getting off the radio station. Not counting all the adversity that I received whenever I put the 4 Horsemen wooden arts and crafts display in the back end of my truck and drove all over the countryside showing people about this apocalyptic prediction that I didn't make. I didn't write the Bible. I didn't predict. I didn't write the book of Revelations. These are all predictions. All I am is the messenger. And basically, they made my life so hard in attacking me, not only in 1989, but in 1991 and in 1993. And I mean, I got proof of all this stuff. Now, there's different people that's got power that the event that happened in my life in 2007 up here in Western Kentucky basically thought that they had squandered all information to the public. That Kentucky Dam never was looked upon towards temporarily being shut down if it wasn't just for an hour or two, based upon me telling people that God had showed me that there was going to be major electrical disturbances to come. I got news for them. I've already done my homework. I've already got my evidence coming from the Four Rivers Behavior Center and coming from Franklin, Kentucky, and coming from the State Trooper's Office and coming from Murray, Kentucky Sheriff's Office that of the truth. So they can suppress the truth all they want in trying to diminish my character that much more, but I know what I know and I can prove what I'm telling. Good luck to each and every one of us. I want to say God bless America, God bless our troops, God bless our endeavors toward which way that we go from this moment on. And once more, things never should have gotten this far out of hand to the degree that it's going to take something major just to pull it back in line. We have various politicians that's been in power for 25, 30, 35, 40 years to blame for all this. And until the American people rise up in contrast to what they're doing right now, in speaking out against these people, we're going to continue to go through the cycle again and again and again, just like a dog chasing after its tail. God bless America, and Shalom.